The Honourable David Parker.
I'll try not to jerk any members from their slumber, sir. And I think that is in order.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the only other observation I'd make in respect of the cameras, sir, is the older that I am, sir, the more I wish the cameras took shots from a lower angle so that the follically challenged amongst us are not as exposed, sir. Mr. Speaker, I concur with the comments that have been made by the Attorney and other speakers after him. This report, I think, is practical. It is true that in the age of the internet and modern methods of communication, some of the more traditional methods of communication between members of Parliament and the public have dwindled. It's absolutely clear that the circulation of newspapers is down. The number of people who get information about what happens from Parliament from the traditional news media has decreased. The number who get them via new forms of communication via the internet has increased, and other telecommunication platforms like tweeting, Facebook, other forms of social media are on the increase, and that's a good thing. The Privileges Committee has recognised that and said that we ought not try to unduly control that in Parliament. We should try to encourage it, but we should do so cognizant of a couple of facts. One, that we shouldn't be so insulting or contemptuous in the language that we use, that we bring each other and this institution into disrepute. There are a number of reasons for that. In the end, as Anne Tolley has said, this is a place where we do serious business, and I think it is incumbent upon us to try and maintain public confidence in this institution by not denigrating unduly others or bringing this House into disrepute. And that's a balance that I think we should strive to get right, and that requires us to maintain some minimum standards of conduct. And if we don't do that, I fear that we bring into disrepute this institution, which in turn undermines public confidence in democracy. And given that we're all here in the pursuit of democracy because we believe in it, that would be a step too far. And so we try and get that balance right through this report by allowing social media, but not allowing social media to be used from the floor of this House in a way that crosses a boundary that wouldn't be permitted if we were saying these things in a presentation as I am doing now. In terms of the point that was made as to whether this is protected by parliamentary privilege, the comments that we make in social media are most clearly not protected by parliamentary privilege. They might be protected because they are fair comment on what has been said in Parliament in a way that is protected by parliamentary privilege, but they are not of themselves comments that are protected by parliamentary privilege. So members shouldn't think that just because they're sitting in Parliament tweeting that they are protected in the same way that they would be protective if, for example, I was to say something that's defamatory of someone, either someone else in this House or someone outside of this House at the moment. I would be absolutely protected against defamation risks because the comments that I make in this Parliament are protected by the doctrine of parliamentary privilege. It's not for my protection, it's actually to protect democracy, so that if I wanted to make an allegation of someone who was wealthy or influential in society who I believed had done wrong, I could do so without fear that I would be sued in defamation. And that's one of the ways that democracy keeps itself clean and free from corruption, and society improves itself or maintains its standard. That the reason for that privilege is as I have articulated, but that reason doesn't need to be extended to social media tweeting by members, or social media or tweets by members in this House, and neither should it be. I want to, just before I sit down, deal with a couple of matters relating to photographs. The decision of a prior Parliament through standing orders to restrict the use by the gallery of photographic images for satirical purposes, I think was born of its time but was wrong. We do need to be thick-skinned as parliamentarians, and satire is an appropriate way in which we can have stupid decisions ridiculed and brought to public attention. Indeed, humour is actually a really good way of doing that. You know, those spitting images programs that so pilloried some of our forebears in this place were absolutely appropriate, and I don't care if they if comedians use footage from cameras rather than puppets. They do take a risk if they misrepresent what happened in Parliament, because satire can go beyond satire, and a Parliament could hold, or a Privileges Committee could hold in contempt a publication which misrepresented what happened in Parliament as opposed to being satirical of it. But those are things that have to be resolved at the day. I think the general prohibition on use of images for satirical purposes was wrong, and so the committee recommends to the Speaker that that prohibition be lifted, and I think that's a good change. In respect of the use of social media to publish photographs taken by one member of another, I'm one of those who favoured the majority decision in the report, and I know that Claire Curran expressed a contrary view, and I'm sure she'll express that view when she speaks. And I recognise there's room for both sides of that argument to be expressed. The reason that I don't think it appropriate is I do think that we can diminish each other in a way that's unnecessary. You know, most formal places of debate have rules in order to slightly depersonalise the contests that we have, so that we can maintain a degree of civility and friendship across the sides of this House, and maintain some humanity and kindness to each other. And I quite like those formal rules that we have, be they in courts or the traditions that are maintained by our media, you know, who are guardians of some of these standards themselves through the rules that they adopt. And we've got responsibility to do that for ourselves in respect to the rules that we apply here. And so I didn't like the fact that we had unrestricted rights, or no rules really, about what we could or couldn't do to each other using photographs that might be taken when someone's tired at, you know, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes we're here in this place. And you can, you know, we can all be caught with a poor facial expression or yawning, or have those things mischaracterised in a way that is pretty much irrelevant. Is pretty much irrelevant to the business that we do here, not representative of how hard people work here, and I think if we allow ourselves to go to that point that we that we've got to be on our guard the whole time, you would find that because of that, we would have less people sitting in the chamber when they actually don't have to be here on duty. And I think this place is better when it has more people here participating in debates, and I don't want to encourage fewer people to be here when we're here late at night, and I don't want the people who are here working hard to be denigrated unnecessarily. Of course, if we say stupid things, or we do outrageous things, those things are going to be reported anyway. But I think we've got that balance right by saying that we shouldn't be able to take photographs of each other. We're effectively applying the same rules to each other as apply to the media. There's no double standard there. The media is restricted in the images that they can use, which are from these cameras, and I don't see why we should have privileges over and above the media when it comes to reporting on what happens in the floor of this House. With those comments, sir, I endorse the recommendations of the Privileges Committee.